go. Okay. Yeah.
Well, just start off. I don't know what theosophy is. I'm the president at the moment. This year I'm the president. So I'll just tell you what theosophy is all about. The Theosophical Society is part of an international organisation. So we're not just Australians, so we are overseas. It was established in 1875, with branches are in how many countries? 70 countries have got branches of the Theosophical Society, so we're not alone. It encourages the study of religion, philosophy and science, as well as unexplained laws of nature and powers latent in the human being. So we study all of those things. So it's quite comprehensive. We have the study of timeless wisdom teachings, known today as Theosophy. Google it up, it's quite interesting. Theosophy, look it all up. While extending to the members wrote laws of complete freedom of search and belief. And the ones that started a lot in the early days, Baron Blavatsky and Colonel Olcott and a few others, they said, don't believe what we say, because we are seeking things. And Theosophy has got a science section as well, for those who are interested in science. So we are seeking, and we don't have to believe anything that's been written in the books by Baron Blavatsky or anything like that. We make up our own minds, so that's stressed in Theosophy. As is freedom of thought, should be regarded as so any speaker that we have, his or her thoughts are their own thoughts, okay? So the presentation is not kind of saying, Theosophy says this, Theosophy says that. So we do present things and we make up our own mind about what's going on. The common ground is a search for the aspiration of truth. So now, what is the motto of the Theosophical Society? There is no religion higher than truth. Religion higher than truth. There is no religion higher than truth. That's our motto. Okay. Wisdom, teachings, been for a long time. I'll just skip to the chase here. This has implications for our lives. So this is a life-changing thing. Theosophy can be a way of life. If you get to know it and stay with it. Concerning universal brotherhood without distinctions. So we have these three objects of the society. Three things we kind of stick to. There's a bit of debate whether you have to believe them or not. So one of them is the universal brotherhood of man. And the second is powers like latent in human beings. But there's all these different objectives which you'll learn later on as you go along. But there's the universal brotherhood. So if you go over to India, Adyar, it's called a different thing now, you go to the headquarters in America, it's a brotherhood of all theosophists. So the universal brotherhood of man is what we stick to. We are all on a unique path as part of here's a good one. We are all on a unique path as part of a journey of ever-expanding awareness. Who wrote that? Beautiful. Okay. More information will be given about some activities. We've got brochures up the back. We've got a little donation jar there if you can put something in it, pay the rent. Length of today's sessions. Now, introduction of that speaker. Tony Buzek. He's been a member of Theosophy a long while. And he's given some very interesting talks before. One of them about the science of Frankenstein, I remember. And this led on to some interesting discussion. So Tony, he's got something, creatures of the realms. What? This should be good. Okay, well, I'll hand it over to Tony, and he might enlighten us, but we don't have to believe everything he says, but he might start us thinking. Okay, over to you, Tony.
Thank you. I was going to call you Lion, Danny. I've got the wrong hat on at the moment. I'm a lion and a few other things. My apologies. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Danny, for your kind words of welcome and your members for its reception and guests. Now, tonight we'll explore different realms, perhaps it's not right, but different realms that are said to exist beyond our level of perception. and some of the creatures that reside therein. Now, therein lies a problem to start with, but we'll do our best. Now, my particular interest in this subject began, or peaked, with strange events that have occurred throughout my life, and because of which several years ago I presented a poem to this lodge on a night dedicated to inspirational thoughts and writings. My poem is called The Fluttering. Now, I had hoped to bring that poem here tonight so that I could recite it to you. But as is the way, where am I? I've lost myself. It seems that the fairies have taken it, or put it in a place that's nice and safe. Now, the fluttering was my way of explaining, or trying to express at least, the experiences that I've had during moments of extreme personal danger and the usual pressure and sound near my ears that I would experience a moment before such events, which seemed to be a signal to me to prepare for or avoid the dangerous event about to occur. Now, some would say that this may have been my guardian angel watching over me. Some, perhaps more cynical amongst them, would say that I was suffering from high blood pressure. However, as a regular blood donor at the time, I can prove otherwise. So, the feeling, it's hard to describe, but it's a bit like if you put your finger near your ear and you flick it. And you get the kind of compression wave and you get the funny flicking sound near the ear as well. And that seemed to occur whenever something dangerous was occurring around me. And I think on one or two occasions it may have, if not saved my life, at least prevented me from being injured. Didn't help me with my appendix, though. So those of you who have read some of the theosophical texts on the subject will know that there is quite a rich list of books dedicated to the various realms and the evolution of the beings that are said to reside there. You'd also know that many people recorded what is said to be the lore or mythological history of such creatures. I guess the question is, if such creatures were indeed real, how is it that they aren't seen in any great numbers these days? Now, my aim thoughts at this juncture is perhaps that we have simply learnt not to see them. Pretty much like our education has taught us not to focus on an entire page when we're, of writing in one glance, but rather to narrow our view down to a single letter and then at the very best to expand out to a word or phrase at a time. Some say that transferring of such realities into the world of children's fairy tales was a way of removing them from the realm of reality into that of fiction, supposedly proving their non-existence. And just a point here on scientific evidence, or scientific proof. In order to prove your theory in science, you must disprove its negative hypothesis. That's right, isn't it, Melanie? Remember that? The hypothesis is...
Null hypothesis.
Yes. The null hypothesis, that's right. I forgot the actual name for it, but you're right. The null hypothesis. Now, thus to prove something is real, your hypothesis has to state that it is not real. And for example, if you had a theory that cats existed, you would have to state in your hypothesis that cats did not exist. When you find a cat, which I'm certain you will disprove your hypothesis that cats don't exist and prove your theory that cats do exist. Right? So, what's the existence of cats got to do with our subject? Well, simply, in order to prove that such creatures of the realms do exist, the hypothesis has to be put that they do exist. Sorry, is that right? In order to disprove the hypothesis and prove the theory, it's necessary to search everywhere in the universe and all fabrics of the universe, material and spiritual, to disprove the hypothesis and prove your theory that they do not exist. An almost impossible task, and I would think it would take many, many, many lifetimes to even come near a possible conclusion. A bit like trying to calculate the meaning of life and discovering the answer was 42, you know how long that took. Now, the best scientific evidence can only say that there is no proof thus far. And my point on scientific evidence is that it is impossible for a physical machine to detect the metaphysical world. We can't even record our own dreams or thoughts, not yet anyway, although I believe that there is something on the way, which emanate from this realm. How can we possibly record another realm or non-physical world? It's going to be an interesting world with regards to the recording of thought. It reminds me of the movie Brainstorm, in which it was basically like a video recorder. They recorded people's dreams and thoughts and the like. The suggestions recently were something is coming. But again, I still think it's a long way away. And I say that to go with my case that it's not possible to record outside our physical reality. Now, as has been said on many occasions, we are all the expression of the One. And that is to say that each and every one of us is God and is of God. Our physical being is simply an expression of God. Theosophists write that the one monad forms on the ethereal level and then expresses your being when such expression is desired. The realms of existence are the various kingdoms that exist. These include the elemental, the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, the human, and the angelic kingdoms. Now, on that note, I personally see the human level as one that is a little bit, maybe a little bit more difficult to prove than the others. Not because the realm doesn't exist and we're not in it, but because I think if we believe in an all-encompassing God and an all-encompassing universe, then other life forms, other alien life forms, also have their own kingdom. But I would imagine that that kingdom is at the same level as our kingdom, or is the same kingdom, if you get my drift. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It can be sort of present here among us, but it could be on a different dimension.
Yes.
Yeah.
So each of these kingdoms have their own various creatures and expressions of higher forms of being. And the concept that a mineral could have consciousness is often difficult to grasp. But such consciousness exists in the desire of the mineral to manifest as quartz, as a piece of gold, as a rock or a mountain, etc. Now, some believe that the resonance that exists in a piece of quartz is proof of such being. Perhaps that it's actually a heart. Now, in each kingdom, it is said that there are fairies, angels, and creatures of an impish nature. Creatures that inspire, creatures that do not. Creatures that do no harm, and those that do. Some say that theosophy is blind to the topic as a general populace, as we have presented a theory of it and deny the possibility that the theory is wrong. After all, most of the Theosophical Society's ideas have been around since 1875. So obviously we need to reevaluate a lot of these things. But I guess the first thing, and if I can get this right, it's all about evolution. Is evolution material, Darwinian, or is it spiritual, or is it both? We all know that Darwinian theory is about the evolution on a physical plane of creatures from one form to another. each and every one of us is the result of a microorganism growing in a tempest ocean that then somehow made its way into or becoming another being that then grew into something else and grew into something else, and then finally made its way onto land, and from land it then progressed into human or to other animals and to human form as well. The idea of a spiritual evolution is a little bit different in that each realm is said to have its own evolution, and that, for example, a human evolution is one that is of a spiritual human development, not from ape to human, that type of thing. Doesn't mean that either of them are wrong. I guess that's something that we can find out once we ourselves have evolved further to be able to know. Personally, I kind of like some kind of mixture between both. And for the moment, this is an idea of which the evolution of the human goes from those early stages of the revolution of the fire and hunting side of things, with the Homo erectus, through to the Homo habilis, the revolution of tool usage, to the Homo sapiens, with the revolution of language. And then from there, modern man, or modern human, the revolution of technology, which results in the loss of understanding of reality and the reawakening of supernormal powers in a few. Now, from there, the future human is purported to be the revolution of spiritual development, the regaining of the understanding of reality, and the full development of supernormal powers. One of the things which is suggested by theosophy regards evolution is that you have devolution, where you at first come from God, come through the non-material world, then come to the physical existence of Earth, and then start to make our way back up through to the God state in the end. So it's this kind of cycle that you go through to achieve that evolution. So these are two definitions of spiritual evolution. There are many more, I'm sure. The creationists have a version of their own, which I don't tend to agree with, simply because they talk about the Earth being 5,000 or 6,000 years old and all these kind of things, which to me just doesn't make sense. So the two definitions that is written up in the on the website keeper.net are these. One is the cosmological or philosophical perspective, which is the philosophical, theological, esoteric or spiritual idea that nature and human beings and or human culture evolve along a predetermined cosmological pattern or ascent, or in accordance with certain predetermined potentials. So within this broad definition, theories of spiritual evolution are very diverse. They may be cosmological, describing the existence of large, personal, describing the development of the individual, or both. They can be holistic, holding that higher realities emerge from and are not reducible to the lower. Idealist, holding that reality is primarily mental, spiritual, or non-dual, holding that there is no ultimate distinction between mental and physical reality. So that starts to get a little deep. Doesn't come up very clear, does it? You have to forget one point here at the top here. It says these 10 points, and they're actually 11 points. But Sorry?
Go figure.
Yeah. But these 10 points, or 11 if you read like I did, summarise the book. The purpose of life is enlightenment. They are, I believe, true and accurate statements of our situation as human beings involved in the divine process of spiritual evolution. Firstly, every man, woman and child on this planet is God. Every man, woman and child lives forever through countless physical lives. 2, the purpose of life is enlightenment. The purpose of life is that God should meet God, and in that meeting taste his, her, its own bliss. For that purpose was all of life made. 3, all of us have journeyed out from God by his command and will be liberated from the cycle of physical birth and death the moment we know that everything in this world, including us, is God. Hindu sages call this level of enlightenment Vijnana, perfect wisdom, and so Hoja. Hoja. Okay? You know, I think you might have more permanent. Oh my gosh. Nirmi Kalpa Sana. Number 4, the Father created the domain of the Mother. Matter, as the setting for our spiritual journey and education. We wander in this material realm lifetime after lifetime, constantly learning. 5, the Father made the material domain lawful. The most important law for us to know is the law of karma, which requires that what we do unto others shall be done unto us. 6, the form of our total journey is a sacred arc, like Jacob's ladder, away from and back to God. But day by day, we also follow a spiritual spiral, returning to the same karmic lessons repeatedly until we learn them. You think we learned the first time, wouldn't you? From one day to the next, this is number 7, we may expect or contract, but all the while we are cosmically drawn back to him by a subsensible, eternal longing, planted there by him, for him, a longing for liberation. Now, for more of that if you want, there is a, what do you call those things in blue? A link? A hyperlink. The longing for liberation. So if you Google that, you'll probably find it. Now, in the cosmic drama, number 8, there are 3 actors we must realise: God the Father, God the Mother, and God the Child. These are the transcendental, the phenomenal, and the transcendental in the phenomenal. Try saying that quickly. Christians call them, note the changing order, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Hindus call them Brahman, Atman, and Shakti. The formless become 2 forms. The formless make trillions of forms through the agency of the 2, and then mysteriously enter them. We are required to know the Trinity. Number 9, everyone will reach him. Some in the morning, some in the afternoon, and some in the evening. Experiences will vary, but all will eventually know God. 10, every genuine path will work. God plays all roles and observes all actions. He has become many, next to him there is none. That's a concept. And number 11 of the 10 points, in his love he is universal, impartial and supreme. What he wills must happen. He decreed this drama for his own pleasure. Each time someone knows himself, oh, thou I. God means God. Does that sound all right? What we look at next comes under this book here, or through this book here, The Divine Plan, by Jeffrey Barborka. It's a text that basically summarises the Secret Doctrine. And if you want to learn more about the Secret Doctrine without reading the Secret Doctrine, because it's very, very big, you either become a member of our lodge and borrow that book off me because I'm a librarian, or you buy your own copy of the book. Now, under the celestial hierarchy, under that, God is infinite in power. Now, this power is transmitted directly and indirectly by lesser divinities. So, basically what happens, supposedly, is that we have an instant where God says, I want to express you. And in doing that, or in order to do that, it has to go through all these different triads to get to the point where they become human, you. And in fact, we're looking at about at least nine different areas that you go through. And some creatures in particular exist within these realms. And in these particular realms, for example, they are mostly of the angelic kingdoms. So the divine source sheds its transcendent divinity by means of greater beings, so that all members are sustained by the divine source. So it's not Chinese whispers as such, but it's that kind of idea where you pass the message on to the next person, and you're actually passing along the energy or the thing that has become you along the chain until it finally reaches that point where it expresses as the monad that becomes, in the non-physical sense, then becomes you in the physical sense. So it's a long process from what I can read, but it can't take any longer than 9 months, can it? It shouldn't. But in any event, the transcendent source is the universal immanence and is described as the truant God. Now, 3 series of triads are responsible for the transmission of the divine source to mankind. Of course, the first triad, the second and third, and it starts with the seraphim, the cherubim, the thrones. The second triad is the dominions, the virtues and the powers. The third is the principalities, archangels and the angels. Now, with the inclusion of God as the summit, the hierarchy thus consists of 10, not 11, but 10 classes comprising a 10-fold scheme. Now, the term angel is applied to the 3 triadic transmitters who act as carriers or messengers for the source. And the literal meaning of the Greek word angelos, angel, implies a transmitter from the celestial realms to the world of men. Okay? That's that little. I've got one more thing that I grabbed from there too, which is the hierarchical ladder of life, of which you can see it also consists of 10 kingdoms. The first 3, the Dianic, Kohanic kingdoms, are angelic kingdoms, and the last 3, as it says, are elemental kingdoms. And we'll try to flesh out a little bit what those different kingdoms, particularly the elementals, are later on. But the Dianic Chowan are the lords of meditation, who thus are devoted to the contemplation of the divine plan and the means of unfolding and fulfilling it. They are regarded not as gods, but rather as the conscious, intelligent powers in nature. The elementals refers to the 3 lowest kingdoms, and thus furthest away from God, from the God source, who are incipient monads, having never had terrestrial bodies. I'm referring to those who have not yet physically manifested terrestrial vehicles. And so when you look at the purported development of, say, humans, for example, along their evolutionary path, you're talking about creatures that, rather than like monkey, whatever, with humans, supposedly there is the non-physical manifestation of a will or an expression to become human. And that may be just like a sap. Then later on it develops a kind of mind a very feeble mind that eventually becomes a physical reality, in a sense, and then to what we are now, and then back up the other way, back to God. That's the theory. But as you can tell, the human kingdom, animal kingdom, plant kingdom, and mineral kingdom sound a little bit strange until you start to think of them not in physical terms but in spiritual evolution terms. I know it sounds like a fine, distinction, but it's something that kind of makes sense to me at the moment, but I'm having trouble explaining it. It's one of those things that just, it's in the head, but you can't get fully grasp it. Now, when we talk of the elementals, or the dynamic, coanic kingdoms, for example, we talk of devas. Devas are spirits, and who are usually invisible to the untrained eye. They are part of the angelic kingdom and are in direct service to the world of nature, expressing themselves as one of the four elements. Now, they exist in the etheric world, which penetrates our own. Gee, we've got a few typos there. They can be seen or felt with our inner senses. Now, these beings are made up of an etheric substance that is unique and specific to their particular element. They are living entities, oftentimes resembling human in shape but inhabiting worlds of their own. These spirits can join together in a hive mind as a spirit of an area. And nature spirits include real biological intelligences, are psychically powerful, and are much less abstract and controllable than the than the elementals that many magical people who perform all of their rituals indoors are familiar with. They can be extremely powerful allies. It's possible to sense nature spirits to determine if they are receptive to a ritual plan, and to have them actively participate in magical workings if they are. This book here is a particular work of finding devas, I guess. It was written by a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Hodson, and it's called The Kingdom of the Gods, and it actually displays a few of these creatures. Things like this, a mountain god, but it'll also have other devas in here as well. A sea slith. There are air sliths as well. Here's a mountain slith. They, in this instance, looks like it's like a flame type of thing that a Lord of the Pines is another one. Good tap dance on it. But anyway, it's an interesting book to read sometime. Nature devas. Now, there are three groups of devas. One, all elementals working with the etheric doubles of humankind, and all elementals working with the etheric bodies of inanimate objects. The violet devas evolved through feeling education of humankind, and are on an evolutionary path. The elementals are on their evolutionary path, their goal being to evolve into the deva kingdom with the violet colour. Now, the fairies and elves build and colour the flowers. The elementals will work with the vegetables, fruit, and all the verdure that covers the earth's surface. Also connected with this group, devas of magnetisation that are connected to stones, talismans, and the sacred spots of the earth. Now, the last group is found around the habitations of the masters who live in the earth. Those in this group work with the elementals of the air and sea, the slights, the water fairies, and the devas who guard human beings. This is one from that book. That's the tree fern deva. Shows up there there that does on the computer. You see it's actually above the phone. How you see these things, I don't know. I think you just have to be receptive to seeing them. And they supposedly help with the growth of the plant, the life of the plant, etc. I can't actually see it in this one, but this is supposed to be the Table Mountain, Diva Table Mountain in Africa. But again, it's supposed to be helping with the life of that particular mountain. This one here is the Maya Diva World, and I don't know exactly where that one is supposed to be. But it does seem to have almost a human form here. Not that it's supposed to be human, maybe it's supposedly an angelic. A kind of angelic form that looks after that particular object or life form. We've all heard of gnomes, and these are three different types that I've particularly seen just recently. This, of course, is the kind of traditional gnome that was seen before these guys came around. A short little fella, big nose, funny feet. These are the warrior gnomes. They're more modern law than old law. And of course there's these guys who travel the world and often get seen in a lot of different places. Now most frequently gnomes are seen is the brownie or elf, a mischievous and grotesque little creature from 12 to 8 inches high, usually dressed in green or russet brown. Most of them appear as very aged, often with long white beards, and their figures are inclined to rotundity. Sounds like humans, isn't it? They can be seen scampering out of holes in the stumps of trees, and sometimes they vanish by actually dissolving into the tree itself. Now, most commonly known as dwarves or goblins, they are concerned with the products and treasures of the earth. Being on the earth, gnomes usually live in the soil, rocks, beneath the ground, and under the tree roots. Gnomes will only help humans if they have been considerate of nature and treated well. They are very helpful of those who have established a connection with them through the prior acts of kindness. When working with humans, gnomes are most helpful with healing the bones. Now, the subgroups of the earth gnomes consist of brownies, dryads, dudalis, earth spirits, elves, hamadryades, pans, pygmies, sylvesters, and satyrs. This is some of the air sliths that we're talking about. You have some that look fairly, according to the artist in this instance, fairly much like a fairy type creature, or these which were actually taken of various cloud formations. These two here, they're actual photographs. You can see them close enough from there, well enough from there. So the sliths or slights are the air spirits. Their element has the highest vibrancy rate. They are said to live on the tops of mountains. The leader of the slights is a being called the Queen of Paralva, who is said to dwell on a high mountain of the highest mountain there, which I guess would be Everest, wouldn't it? They often assume human form, but can only for short periods of time. And they are said to be the most beautiful of all the elementals. They are usually seen with wings, looking like cherubs or fairies. Hence this one, I guess. They are said to leave beautiful green rings in meadows and fields caused by bending the dewy grass, caused by their dancing in circles. Sounds a bit like crop circles, doesn't it? Because of their connection to air, which is associated with the mental aspect, one of their functions is to help humans receive inspiration. The sliths drawn to those who use their minds, particularly those on creative arts. Now, sloths are usually sympathetic of human endeavours, and for the most part, their actions towards them are kindly and thoughtful. The sloths can be a profound and powerful influence on the human mental body and thought, and they are responsible for being the primary impetus behind both inspirational art and inventions. This is one you might be familiar with, perhaps not with the word. With water, undines. I thought it said undies when I first looked at it. Of course, we're talking about creatures that are almost mermaid-ish, and some of them are actually mermaids or mermen. The water spirits are called undines. This name was first used by Swiss metaphysician Paracelsus in the early 16th century. They closely resemble humans in appearance and size, except for those inhabiting smaller streams and ponds. They are beautiful, emotional, and graceful nature spirits who dress themselves in greenish, sea-coloured garb that has both a shimmering consistency and a watery texture. Their ruler is known as Nexa, who they love, serve, and honour unceasingly. Since their purpose is to direct the flow and course of the waters of the planet, they live in coral caves, fountains, lakes, marshlands, rivers, sea, waterfalls, and underneath lily pads. Besides caring for plants, both above and below the surface of the water, the undines are concerned with the movement of water and how they relate to human emotions and soul responses. The undines and their subgroups are friendly, approachable, and are very willing to work with people and to help them. Etheric in nature, they exist within the water itself, and this is why they can't be seen with a normal physical vision. The subgroups of the water undines consist of limonides, mermaids, naiads, oceanic, Oreads, Ptamides, and sea maids. It just makes you wonder whether some of the others that are supposedly the not so nice ones, such as the sirens and those, are supposedly the same family. That take a sailor to the death, that type of thing. Fire the salamanders. Now, interestingly enough, that actually, a lot of people actually look at the salamander, the animal, and consider it to be a part of this kingdom as well. But I don't see where the relationship between fire and those two little creatures. Anyway, the salamanders have been seen in the shape of fiery balls or tongues of fire. This one in particular is just like a sunspot explosion there, and just a campfire there, I think it is. And this is a drawing again from one of this book, the fire sword. So the spirit of fire, they keep us warm and work throughout the liver, bloodstream, and emotions. Without these beings, fire cannot exist. You cannot light a match without their salamanders being present. They are considered the strongest and most powerful of all the elementals. Their ruler is a magnificent flaming being called Jinn. On the spiritual level, they also help to awaken Kundalini. Kundalini, for those who don't know, how do we describe it? The spark within us, and of course, if you don't do it properly, it can be very dangerous. Salamanders will always help people who are friendly towards them and keep their heart fires burning. They also have special influence over those with fiery tempers. I don't know, I've seen some people with some pretty fiery tempers before. It hasn't really worked for them. So dynamic evolution through successive kingdoms. This is from absoluteastronomy.com, in which it stated that these two fellows, Young and Haskell, have each independently incorporated the findings of science into a larger theory of spiritual evolution and extended the traditional human, animal, vegetable and mineral categories with kingdoms representing photons, atoms and molecules. Now, after Young goes further in considering the human state as a subset of a larger kingdom of dominion, of which the sixth stage is represented, for example, by Christ and Buddha, and the seventh, final stage, and even a higher level of enlightenment or God realization. And moreover, both Haskell and Young present profound accounts of evolution through these kingdoms in terms of cybernetic principles. A more mainstream scientific presentation of this idea is provided by Eric Jansch in his consummate account of how self-organising systems evolve and develop as a series of symmetry breaks through the sequence of matter, life and mind. Although abiding strictly by the understanding of science, Jansch arranges the various elements of cosmic, planetary, biological, psychological and human evolution in a single overall framework of emergent evolution. I think they've been working very hard trying to make sense of evolution in as many different ways as possible. It's almost as if, like with Einstein, where he tried to have the universal theorem, and it seems what these guys are trying to do, which I haven't seen their work to actually see how close it can come. Now this is the first picture I was going to show you. This is called an owl. This comes from German folklore. I don't know if you can see him too well from there, but this is the creature here, and he's sitting on the chest of this woman who's actually dreaming. And what he's actually doing is he's giving her a nightmare. And in the process of giving her a nightmare, he's also hurting the chest because he's sitting on it. And I don't know if any of you have ever had, say, a cat sit on your chest while you're sleeping, but that was the kind of first thought I had when I saw this, because when a cat sits on your chest when you're asleep, you feel very, very strange, because you don't feel like you can move. And so he's supposed to do that as well. And they're supposed to be wearing a hat. Now I can't actually see the hat there, but the hat is supposed to be a magical hat that they use to make themselves invisible when they want to. But they're a mischievous little fella, as well as causing things like nightmares. They're pretty horrible nightmares. Their heavy weight, of course, crushes was crushing to the chest and wakes the terrified, breathless victim. And modern suggestions for that situation includes things like sleep apnea and sleep paralysis and night terrors. And of course, to me, the sleep paralysis side of it sounds like some of the ufology experiences where people claim to have been either kidnapped by aliens, whatever, where sleep paralysis is part of the process where they're actually unable to move while the aliens conduct their experiments on them. The elk can become a fine mist so that they can enter the victim's body and to be able to then, similar to spirit possession, so that then be able to administer their nightmares and feed off the dreams. Now, the other ones, I think I'd rather mist rather than the second one, but the second ones, they can supposedly use their very, very long tongues to do the same job. Now, they enjoy drinking blood from nipples of men and young children, but prefer the taste of breast milk. The elk is mischievous, they sour milk, and they re-diaper a baby with a soiled nappy. They will tangle hair and chew and twist horses' tails. Now, elks can shapeshift, changing into such creatures as cats, pigs, dogs, snakes, or small white butterflies. Why small white butterflies, I don't know. Why we've got to differentiate between butterflies. Now, wearing their magic hats, as I said, they can turn invisible. They also have an evil eye that will inflict illness and misfortune if they so wish. The owl is often considered a demon in origin, but often created from the spirits of recently dead relatives. A pregnant woman scared by an animal may bear a child that turns into an owl. Stillborns may also return from the grave as an owl to torment their families. And people who have eyebrows, and this is the one, people who have eyebrows that meet in the middle are suspected of being owls. Sometimes witches or evil people who wish harm on others summon spirit owls to torment people. I'd just like to know how the animals creature. Okay, so this is just a little bit about elves, or elves. The little. Oh, okay, yeah, that's in. It's again Germanic mythology, but the word is little Alvor, playing with Tomte Bowman. From Children of the Forest 1910 by Swedish author, illustrator Elsa Beskow. And they look a little bit like the magic pudding type characters that we're used to here in Australia, I think. And these guys here look a bit like the characters from a couple of those different books. We had the Gun Days, yeah. And there's some of the spirits there that I can see. So the elves are considered to be a race of divine or semi-divine beings with magical powers to either benefit or injure mankind. Their modern folklore is associates them with fairies. Now, often they live in forests or underground in hills or rocks or in wells and springs. The 19th century Romance era restored them to full stature. Very young, adolescent men and women of great beauty. In pop culture from the 1870s United States popularised Christmas elves and they shrunk again. So they've had a bit of a problem with their PR men, I think. They have close kinship with the dwarves. They're like dwarves and dark elves. Like elves and dark elves. Semi-divine elfin beings associated with fertility and ancestor worship. They're not bound by physical limitations. They can pass through walls and doors in the same manner as ghosts. Light elves live in a place called Elfhome. Dark elves live below the earth in caves and the dark forest. Light elves are brighter than the sun in appearance, but dark elves are blacker than pitch. Old English tradition, elves are mischievous and harmful beings. Elves are small, elusive people with mischievous personalities, often portrayed as children. Williams syndrome, a rare neurodevelopmental disorder, was first diagnosed, I think, in the 1950s. And they have elfin facial appearance with this disorder, along with low nasal bridges, unusually cheerful demeanour and ease with strangers, developmental delay with strong language skills and cardiovascular problems, which has a prevalence of 1 in 7,500 to 1 in 20,000 births. So in some ways, there is a kind of a physical reflection, if you like, of elfin characters through these unfortunate kids. This symbol, we've all seen that symbol before, I guess, but in this instance it's the symbol that's used, it's called the elf cross, which is used to protect against the malevolent elves. here are some more of the, this fellow here, the god Frey, is the lord of the light elves. I don't know where he's got a boar or a whole heart next to him. This fellow here is the hero Wallander, the ruler of the elves, sometimes thought to be dwarves, and nicknamed Dark Elves. This drawing is of the Old English version of what, or English folklore version of what an elf looks like, being of diminutive size and humanoid, and playing games with the birds or teasing the bird in that instance. This painting here is of it's almost like a mist, but it's supposed to be some elves that play and what they do. And this one here is supposedly meadow elves. To me it looks like a bunch of young ladies dancing, but what I know. Fairies. We've all heard of fairies. Now, in the teachings of theosophy, devas, the equivalent of angels, are regarded as living either in the atmosphere of the planets of the solar system or inside the sun. Presumably, other planetary systems and stars have their own angels. And they are believed to help to guide the operation of processes of nature, such as the process of evolution and the growth of plants. Their appearances reputedly the coloured flames about the size of a human being. Some, but not most devas, originally incarnated as human beings. Less important, smaller in size, less evolutionary developed minor angels are called nature spirits, elementals, and fairies. Now we've all heard, most of us I'm sure have also heard of the Cottingley fairy photographs of 1917. Which were eventually in 1981 revealed by the two girls who, obviously by that stage were very old women, as fake. Which, if you've seen the photographs, you'll realise that anyway. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. They were originally believed real by theosophists of the day, although I don't know how. It's believed by philosophers that devas, nature spirits, elementals, gnomes, ondones, sliths, and salamanders and fairies can be observed when the third eye is activated. It's maintained by philosophers that these less evolutionary developed beings have never been previously incarnated as human beings. They are regarded as being on a separate line of spiritual evolution called the Deva evolution. Eventually, as their souls advance as they reincarnate, it's believed they will incarnate as devas. Now, it's asserted by philosophers that all of the above-mentioned beings possess etheric bodies. They are composed of etheric matter, type of matter finer and more pure, that is composed of smaller particles than ordinary physical plane matter. This is an artwork called Claudia by Sophia Anderson. Just a nice little fairy, I guess. This one is a naked fairy, and she's on a dragonfly. So she's getting a lift on the dragonfly. So I don't think she's actually got wings of her own. And this one here is taken from a book, The Seven Wishes Among Gnomes and Trolls by John Bayer. And that, of course, is the fairy and a little boy talking to her. This is supposedly, it's a quarrel between Oberon and Titania by Noel Paton. Fairies in Shakespeare, I think it was Midsummer's Night. Yeah, that's the one I think where the quarrel took place. This one here is of Prince Arthur and the Fairy Queen, seen from the Fairy Queen. And characteristics of fairies. Well, supposedly human in appearance, with magical powers. Some fairies steal babies, I didn't know this bit, and replace them with changelings, and also abduct older people. The modern folklore claims they are young, summer-winged, humanoids of small stature. Originally depicted as tall, radiant, angelic beings or short, wizened trolls. They range in size from very tiny up to the size of a human child. Rarely in folklore do they have wings, as they fly with magic, or on ragwort stems, or the back of birds. Everyone know what ragwort is? It's a small plant, they eat, I think, and it's poisonous to cattle and horses, and yeah, they somehow supposedly hitch a ride on these things. They've got a yellow flower. Now some folklore says that they have green eyes and they often bite. They also believe in the angelic nature of fairies. Celtic fairy lore says that fairy folk are immortals, living in ancient barrows, and barrows are burial grounds. Burial mounds, and cairns. Not the place up there, but cairns which are man-made piles of stones. Actually, tells you where to go. They're just some fairy images, of course. I don't know the names of these ones, but they're images to look at. The cotton fairies, here they are. Now, when I looked at those, I originally thought, well, they're just going to be cardboard cutouts, and they were. But they apparently filled many, many, many people in 1917. Did I go with it?
Oh yeah, just record it again.
Yeah, so they just faked it for the cameras. That's what they claim anyway. That's probably the most famous photographs. This is another one, but a couple others from it, which I haven't seen this one, I don't think. It shows one with, a little bit of a clearing there, and this one was a little bit more cleverly done, because although that kind of looks cardboardish, the stuff that goes around here looks almost see-through. So whether they've got a veil or something and put it through the grass to make it look like it was flowing or something. This one in here, what they ended up doing, they put them on wide spokes and put the spokes into the ground, whatever, or tied the spokes to the trees and curved the wheels with that.
It looks real.
Looks real to you?
Yeah.
And there was, this one was almost 3D. It actually looks like it's got a body, this one, so I don't know how they did that one. It might be just a doll that they did up, but still, check out the head. I can see that one. And this one, of course, again, what they got it from was from a 1910 book, and they copied the angels out onto a piece of cardboard and cut it and fooled millions of people. And that's basically the place where they supposedly saw those fairies. That's kindly where it's called. Yeah. This is supposedly a photograph of an angel. I don't know whether any of you have ever heard of the angel that was supposedly seen over some of the battlegrounds in World War I. I forgot the name of those ones now, I can look it up, but it was, I remember it was a battle that was about to happen or something, and the angel protected one particular town. Sorry?
I think it's in France or Belgium or something.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and was supposed to have protected a battalion from almost certain annihilation.
Yeah.
And they all claim to have seen this thing. One of the St. Mons or something.
So I think I'm wrong.
Yeah, but yeah, whether they actually took a photo of that one, I don't know. But the thing about photography, though, it may have been harder to do in those days, but these days, of course, you can never trust photography because it's so easy to fake things these days. I mean, going back to my information on the stories on ufology, I've had video cameras for years now, and have never been able to film outside at night time, except for one camera I had before this one, which had the infrared, ultra,
No,
yeah, infrared, where you could see, out in the yard and that kind of stuff, almost like daylight when you film at night time. But you couldn't film anything in the night sky. Even the moon, like you try to take a shot of the moon, it's pretty hopeless. This thing here, the most recent of my cameras, I couldn't film the moon if I tried. And yet you've got people who've got these brilliant shots with cameras, supposedly older than this, that could film, spot-on shots of alien craft flying by. You can't do it. Not with cheap cameras that people, the majority of people have got, particularly in some places like is it Brazil and that have supposedly got all these particular things. It's just not possible. And that's supposedly one looking down upon, I think that's a battlefield too. It's hard to read. In 1916 it says, it seems to be looking down towards a battlefield, but who knows. These are supposedly, well, this is almost what Byzantine era, I guess, the icons of the Archangel Michael and Gabriel. This is supposed to be Michael again, I think, in a more modern rendition. So I wasn't sure how to title this part, but I called it What Is and Will Be. This actually comes from something that Jane lent me, which was The Spirits, Fairies and Goblins by G. D. Veruca, who was a theosophist, wasn't he? And he wrote quite a few books. We've only got one of his books in our library, we didn't have this one. And there were a few paragraphs that I liked in particular from it, which I felt summed up the story. And so in the past times, the human race was an elemental race and existed in the evolutionary stage, represented by the beings whom theosophists call elementals. Now in the eons of the far distant future, we shall be gods, for a god is even now within each one of us, in the core of each one of us, in the heart of each one of us. This divine entity shows divine powers which express themselves feebly as yet through our imperfect human vehicle. Now it is our philosophical teaching that the spaces of boundless space, not only our exterior physical universe, but all the interior worlds, and these latter are by far the greater part of space. The interior, the invisible, but only invisible because our imperfectly evolved human sense apparatus does not report the existence of these interior worlds to us. All these interior worlds are filled full with animate beings, just as our earth is. I think that's pretty profound, but it's that one. But not only now on earth, but the beasts and even the vegetation show marvellous instinctive intelligence. Each class after its kind, each class after its race, each after its family. If every animate entity was exactly like every other animate entity in boundless space, then there would be a drab uniformity everywhere. But you see such uniformity nowhere.
Even among men, you see differences in facility, differences in development, great men, inferior men, women too, by the way. Not essentially inferior, good or inferior, great or inferior, not essentially inferior, but in development, men intermediate who are the average men. And above us, high above us, there are the gods. These gods were men in some past, Tara, or cosmic life period, just as we men of the present day, in future cosmic life periods, shall have evolved into becoming gods, even as now we are men from having evolved forth out of the elemental stages. All nature, all the universe, the boundless infinitude, looked at in this way, we recognise to be one beginningless and endless and frontierless stream of evolving entities coming out from the invisible on the one hand as elemental entities descending into the material spheres as life atoms passing a stage of existence in everyone begins life as they move along with this advancing evolutionary current. Minerals, plants, beasts, men, supermen, or what the Greeks called heroes, lower gods, higher gods, super gods, and so on. Therefore, the gods exist because the men exist. Men exist because the gods exist. The elemental beings exist because men and gods exist. We and the gods exist because the elemental beings exist. It all comes back to the same thought: the one instance proves all the others, and all the others prove the one. Life is everywhere, because life is motion, movement, change, which is evolution, growth. And where life is intelligence. Where life is willpower. But, and here mark you well, my brothers, not always existing in equal degrees. This is obvious. There are highly evolved men, men poorly evolved, and then the vast range of men occupying the intermediate stages. So it's also in the incomputable host of being living in boundless space. Therefore, the universe is full with gods. It is full with vast hierarchies, hosts, multitudes, armies. Call it aggregates what you like, or of other sentient, animate, thinking, conscious, quasi-conscious entities, beings, creatures. We won't quibble about names. They exist in all grades, from the loftiest that the mightiest human imagination can conceive, and beyond, down to the lowest that the human thought could fathom, and lower still. This means that the power to use one's will exists in degree, in all various degrees. It means that intelligence in the universe manifests itself in evolutionary degrees or stages, some low, some higher still. Therefore, the universe is filled not only with the gods, but with the beings between the gods on the other hand, and the elemental beings on the other hand. And finally, I think that's the final, yeah. Now that we shall call this incomputably vast range of consciousness, what name or names shall we give to them? Call them what you like. Briefly, theosophists speak of them as gods, demigods, heroes, men, creatures, lower than men, and the elementals. Elementals is simply a name given as a generalising term for purposes of convenient expression to all beings below the minerals. Nevertheless, the minerals themselves are expressions of one family, or host, or hierarchy, of elemental beings. The vegetable kingdom likewise manifests merely one family, or host of elemental beings, happening to be in the vegetable phase of their evolution on this earth. Just so likewise as regards the beasts are highly evolved elemental beings, relatively speaking. And there's just a few artworks of some of the fairies, some more traditional kind of Tinkerbellish type of fairies, these ones. These are the dwarves. These are some of the this was again? No.
Imps.
No, the little things. I forget maybe it's the elves. She's feeding them anyway, which isn't all good. This is a traditional photograph of a kind of English folklore type of
Yeah. Yep.
they're trolls. That's fair. Forget what that one's called. That's an England. Does anyone recognise that colour? Although he's a lot more handsome there, and he's got skin.
It's the angel of death.
He's the angel of death with his scythe, but here he's got skin there, so he's since lost a bit of weight. And these are some more modern versions of angels. Of course, this one's a photo montage, and this one being an artwork. Quite impressive, this one. Almost X-ray vision of the wings. And these are some guardian angel, Christian type angels in the other. They do look very, this one was Jesus-ish in a way, but yeah, traditional type of guardian angels. And these are some more modern versions. This almost looks like a muse to me, this fellow. But something clearly the muses are also supposedly creatures that are helping humanity along. And of course this angel here passing down some vital source to a lower human. Yeah. And finally this fellow. This is a bit of a sinister fellow. He's actually the avenging angel. And you see, I don't know if you can see it there, but he's actually got a head in his hand there, and he's got a nice long sword there, so he's gone. Yeah, but quite an impressive looking piece of artwork. But I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tony. We'll have questions in a minute, but therefore I'll make a commercial. Okay, you notice over the left we've got the camera. We record each lecture, so if we want to go through this again, you can join the Theosophical Society, see Charmaine over there, our secretary, and you can join the Theosophical Society and borrow these tapes. Tony is a librarian, and we've got tapes of all the shows.
The library books on the table with the blue cover.
Good. And library books, Tony's librarian with actual real-life books, and there are over 700 books in the library. Theosophical Library, and they're at Tony's place. So if you join up, you can borrow these things. We've got tapes of nearly all the talks we've given. So there is a good library of tapes and books. So it's very, very reasonable to join. It's not expensive. So
we've got about 95 DVDs, I think, of that.
Okay, grab that.
5 lectures. Yeah, including yours on rainbows. Rainbow.
If anyone's got any questions for Tony, or
Whether they think about like the angels of the Virgin Mary in the clouds. Do you believe that like there's places where they see the Virgin Mary?
Like Fatima or whatever.
Yeah, he's must be Syria. Or just angels.
I don't know. I personally think it's a personal thing, whether you believe it or not, that something like that has occurred. I can understand people saying, perhaps like these kids saying, well, okay, we witnessed an angel coming to us, and the angel told us, this is going to happen on this day, whatever, we're not careful, whatever. But I don't know how it was going to appear to thousands of people, and they all turned up on a certain day. Did it happen that way? I think it was talk that they tried to get there or something, and she didn't turn up on the day or something, or...
Well, she appeared for quite a while.
Yeah.
And the crowds got bigger and bigger and bigger, and she kept...
So, I think at the time it was supposed to be to bolster people's hopes in
safer, happier world type thing, so that we wouldn't consider ourselves to be on the brink of destruction or whatever.
Yeah,
And then, of course, we.
that's really serious.
Yeah. And how long ago was that? Was that in the?
1917.
Yeah, it was about the same period as
First of all.
Is it something where you're looking at some pretty horrible things that have happened since too? Is it hope? Is it hope that actually brings them to us?
Is it like a mass hypnosis?
Well, I can tell you a story about that too. Some people I knew, well, my grandfather was in Czechoslovakia, was a part of a group of people who had lost two of their children in a hospital. A whole ward of kids died because the doctor turned up to work drunk one night and administered the wrong medication. Well, he then committed suicide about 2 or 3 days after this doctor. And for about 4 or 5 weeks afterwards, people would see this doctor in the window with his whites on and with all his blood all over him. And my grandfather went to this fellow he knew and said, "I've seen it. I've been there. I've seen it. This thing. There's a big little window and there's this ghost that comes across and wailing and that." And this fellow said, "Well, how did I come with you next time?" Because this fellow apparently was a practicing a bit more than a magician. It was more like remember the Mandrake cartoons? More like that kind of character where he had that kind of ability to hypnotise people at will and that type of stuff. Well, he walked into this crowd and they could all see this fellow. Is he there now? Yeah, there he is. I can see it. It happened at a certain time of night, every night. It was about, I think, 8 o'clock or something. They all saw it. Turns up at 8 o'clock. There he is, walking across the window. And this fellow says, "No, there's nothing there." He said, "This fellow here is projecting it." He touched this fellow on the shoulder, and as soon as he did, it all vanished. And was that simply a mass hypnosis, or was it mass suggestion, or was it something real?
Yeah.
Because all these people felt grief over their kids being lost.
So that's right. When there's mass grief like that, and like after the First World War, with Fatima, people can, I don't know, maybe they're convinced to see something they want to see, like the Virgin Mary, because it is very devout Catholics. They could manifest something like that. But for such a long period of time with Fatima, I don't know. It's a tricky one, that one.
Yeah.
But with the doctor, it could be that it's the energy of the guy that left behind, and maybe the guy that he touched actually saw him do something, so he might have found him. And so he was projecting the thought, projecting his thought onto the glass.
So,
and with people being there at that time, it would help him to create the situation. Or it might have been the spirit of the guy too.
yeah.
And that guy might have been the catalyst that was bringing the spirit to the window. Who knows?
I mean, I personally have seen some pretty strange things in this life. I haven't, as such, seen a witness to ghost. I have witnessed some pretty strange things, which I've talked about before. A couple of our talks on what was it?
The accidental medium or the accidental...
Chronicles of Part-Time Psychic.
Part-time, yeah, part-time psychic.
In which I explained a few of those experiences, but that was not one of them. I have seen some strange things, but astral projection, that type of stuff, have been things that I believe I've done, and I recall doing, but that I haven't recalled.
But I have an open mind as to whether it is possible. But I see the human mind as being something that can record these things.
Yeah.
I don't see a physical machine.
No. If you want to test your abilities, go down to me.
No, I'm sorry.
To the what, sorry? Go down to Crystal to me. Test your Monte Cristo, that's from the house in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, I was there last year with some friends, and that really pushes to the test.
Did you ever go to, Port Arthur before the mass killings there?
Yeah, I lived in Hobart in 69, 70.
Okay.
I used to go down and just picnics and things.
Well, I went there prior to the mass killings. It was probably about 6 months before, and we went on the ghost tour. I remember walking through. Now I don't know whether it was just suggestion, but I remember walking through the trees up near the governor's residence up there, and I could see people hanging in those trees.
It's something like Port Arthur, where there's mass suffering, and the energy would stay there, and it's still there.
Yeah.
When I went into the prison part, I could definitely feel
Yeah.
the atmosphere and something, a presence, like a presence in the definitely.
Yeah.
All those little tiny cells,
Yeah.
yes.
All
Yeah,
the-
and the ground, the floor was just dirt. Yeah.
Well, I had when the 9/11, like the Twin Towers were down, they had the face of the devil in the smoke. We got a lot of pictures of that off the internet and all of that. Now also they had like a thing called, with some animals, like stories of fire orbs, like for like telegraph pole, like power lines. Like,
See, that's where some people say that these divas would present themselves there to help people get through those kind of things, like September 11th, for example, like the Twin Tower collapse. But in that, it wasn't the devil that are actually saying, it was the creatures that were there to try to help the humans through that horrible thing that was happening to them. It's one of those things where things aren't necessarily evil, but there's a lot of nasty things out there, but there's also a lot of good things as well. And if you believe in muses, the ability to write a piece of music or write a wonderful book or something like that is given to you by or influenced by these muses who are next to you saying, oh, tell them whatever you like, it'll work.
I think September 11th was an act of compassion. Because for all those people to die, so many all at once, that would have taken years and years and years for all those souls to agree to that. And all people involved with it come together. And for them to do that as an act of compassion, and that was probably meant as a catalyst for us to be more, to understand, be more compassionate. Of course, it didn't work that way because of the politics in America at the time. We went in reverse, which is unfortunate. And those leaders would have been there to help those people. One, help souls to move on. And the people to be behind to maybe help them to see it as an act of compassion rather than as an act of terrorism, as the government's granted it. Because, I mean, it didn't just happen because those two guys started throwing. That would have taken years and years and years and years on the spiritual level that to eventuate.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I tend to believe is that we plan our existence almost from way we go. And say, well, okay, I want to experience this in this life, I don't want to experience that. I want to try this so that I can get X amount of points to get closer to the next grading of my spiritual unfoldment. And in order to do that, you've got to go through so many horrible things. You've got to go through marriage problems, you've got to go through whatever else happening. Because we've all got to experience these things to get our points to get further along the track. And after all, it is nice thought that each and every one of us is going to evolve into something far greater than what we are now. I wouldn't see it as like, I think take movies as being something I use to look at these things. I hope it's not like Logan's Run, where they thought that the carousel was their road to enlightenment. There was going to be a greater life for them after that. They were just getting the chop there when they got to 30 years of age. That was it. I digress.
Well, I was thinking about salamander. Why they use the word salamander for this fire dealer? Salamander has something to do with fish.
They actually use the salamander as part of it too, so I'm not sure whether they're actually saying that the salamander, for some reason, has this fire spirit in it. But yeah, they do use the salamander as part of it. If you look at some of the heraldry artwork of the pommies and all over there, with it's got a fiery salamander on it. The salamander looks like it's on fire basically. It's part of the shield. Go figure. I don't think you'd ever like them if you put pour petrol over it, really.
Okay, any more questions? Or we'll go and have a cup of tea, and more questions over a cup of tea. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for your report.